Joe Biden has seen a sharp drop in his approval rating over the past 3 weeks, allowing Donald Trump to gain ground in the polls in several swing states. But is it enough to put Trump ahead in the Electoral College? Let's head to the map. We'll start by giving Joe Biden all the states he is sure to win. Those include Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And now for the states that Donald Trump would definitely win. Those include Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, as well as the 1st and 3rd Congressional District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and South Carolina. We also have several states that are nearly safe and will probably be decided by about 10%. In New Mexico, Joe Biden leads Donald Trump by 8, according to a public policy polling poll from August. Democrats have won New Mexico by double digits in 3 of the past 4 elections. 2016 was closer because Hillary Clinton was a relatively weak candidate, and Gary Johnson, the state's former governor, was running on the Libertarian Party line. It's in the likely column for now, but I do think New Mexico should be a pretty comfortable victory for Joe Biden. It has been over a year since our last poll out of Maine, but Democrats have carried the state at large, as well as the 1st Congressional District, in every election since 1992. I'm not expecting any surprises in 2024, but we will leave the 2nd Congressional District blank for now. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Now, Colorado and Minnesota are both states that in past videos I've had in the likely column for Joe Biden. And I still think that when we look at the whole picture, they are states Biden should win by 7 to 10 points. However, this map is based on the polls, and recent Emerson polls from both states should cause a little concern for the Biden campaign. In Colorado, the most recent Emerson poll shows Biden ahead by 4%. This poll was conducted in early October before Biden's dip in approval. That puts Colorado in the lean Biden column for now, but I'd be very surprised if Trump flipped Colorado in 2024. An Emerson poll from Minnesota shows Biden leading by just 2%. Biden won Minnesota by 7 in 2020, and Democrats have carried the state in every presidential election since 1976. Even Reagan couldn't flip Minnesota. Again, based on current polls, Minnesota is a lean Biden state, but I would expect him to win it by at least 5% in 2024. And while Biden's current polling numbers don't look great in Colorado or Minnesota, they look really strong in New Hampshire. New Hampshire has been purplish in the past, but a recent CNN poll shows Biden leading Trump by 12. An Emerson poll from August shows Biden leading Trump by 7. Average them out, you get Biden plus 9.5, which tracks with polling from over the past several months. It's a likely Joe Biden state for now. We'll take a look at our likely Trump states next, but before we do, if you're enjoying this video so far, hit that like button. It helps this channel reach more people. We'll start with Alaska, where the latest polls show Trump up by 8 in a head-to-head matchup with Biden, as well as in a 3-way race that includes Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So yeah, let's talk about RFK Jr. real quick. If you've watched some of my other videos, I don't think he's going to be a big factor in 2024. That being said, I have seen the recent polls showing RFK Jr. north of 20%. And I just really don't think that's going to hold up. We're about a year out from the general election, and the 2 major party frontrunners are super unpopular. I'm expecting voters from both parties to consolidate around their nominees as we get closer to the election. Additionally, RFK Jr. doesn't have ballot access anywhere at this point. But regardless, polls show Alaska as a likely Trump victory in 2024. Trump would also be a pretty decent-sized favorite in Iowa. The state has taken a bit of a right turn, despite Obama winning it in 2008 and 2012. Recent polls out of Iowa have shown Trump consistently ahead with a double-digit lead. Ironically, the one exception was a poll sponsored by a Republican group. Iowa is a likely Trump state in 2024. It's a little strange that Ohio really doesn't fit into the swing state category anymore. Trump won it by 8 in 2016 and 2020. Recent polls indicate that he's going to do it again in 2024. We have several recent results out of Ohio. Data for Progress shows Trump leading by 8. Ohio Northern University shows Trump leading by 5, and Change Research in a poll sponsored by a Democratic group shows Trump ahead by 5. If we average these results, we get Trump plus 6, putting it in the likely category for him. Polling from Texas has been a little weird. Our most recent poll was conducted by YouGov, and it showed Joe Biden beating every single GOP presidential candidate not named Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. Before that, our next most recent poll was from May, showing Biden trailing Trump and DeSantis by just 2%. And before that, we had an April poll sponsored by a Republican group showing Trump leading Biden by just 3%. It's true that Texas has voted for the Republican presidential candidate in every election since 1980, but it's also true that the GOP margin victory has been shrinking. Trump only won Texas by 5.5% in 2020. I don't think this is the year the Democrats flip Texas, but we're a lot closer to Texas flipping than I think most people realize. If the election were tomorrow, I'd expect a Trump victory of right around 5%, but our most recent poll, and the only one that has been conducted recently, showed Trump with an 8-point lead. I'm going to put it in the likely column for Donald Trump. Florida is a state that's teetering on the edge of lean and likely for Trump, and we do have a recent poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies. I had never heard of them before, so when I looked at their polling record, an obvious pattern immediately popped out. In all of their 2020 polls, they overestimated Joe Biden's support. I think some of that has to do with their online polling methodology. We saw Trump win Florida by 3.4% in 2020, followed by an absolute GOP landslide in 2022. The question is whether the result in 2024 will be closer to 2020 or 2022. Is Florida too far gone for the Democrats? A potential X factor in Florida and several other states are activist efforts to get constitutional amendments related to abortion on the ballot for 2024. Abortion measures have generated a ton of turnout for the Democrats since Roe v. Wade was overturned, and having these sorts of measures on the ballot in 2024 could help Joe Biden lock down vital swing states. That being said, it's very difficult to get constitutional amendment initiatives on the ballot in Florida, and I doubt this effort will be successful in 2024. So with that tangent out of the way and getting back to the polls, Trump leads Biden by 5 head-to-head and by 7 in a three-way race in a poll that had consistent bias towards Joe Biden in 2020. I'm putting Florida in the likely Trump column for now. And that brings us to our swing states and swing districts. If you're enjoying this video so far, subscribe to the channel. I post regular Electoral College and Senate race predictions, and there'll be plenty more between now and Election Day. In previous videos, I've had Virginia in the likely Biden column. And maybe when we consider the totality of factors, it should still be a likely Biden state. However, we're focusing on the polls in this video, and recent Virginia polling hasn't been great for Joe Biden. A Research America poll found Donald Trump and Joe Biden tied. A Change Research poll sponsored by Future Majority PAC, a Democratic organization, showed Biden with a 5-point lead over Trump. That lead shrunk to 1% when Cornel West was added. The lead turned into a tie when Joe Manchin was added too. Even if we look back a little further at a Roanoke College poll from August, yes, Biden leads by 9, but that's actually a 7-point swing in Trump's favor from their previous poll in May. All this is to say that Virginia appears to be tightening. Democrats may be encouraged by winning full control of the General Assembly in the 2023 midterms, but they also lost several swing districts. It wasn't exactly a blue wave. An average of polls since September puts Biden ahead by 2.5 points, landing Virginia in the lean Biden column. I think Biden is also the slight favorite to win Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. It's a district he won in 2020, and Nebraska is another state where abortion rights activists are looking to get measures added to the ballot. If they're successful, Biden would almost certainly win the 2nd congressional district, as it's home to the state's largest metropolitan area. Working against Biden and the Democrats are new district maps passed in 2022, which may make the district slightly more favorable for the GOP. We don't have any polls from this district, and I doubt we will for some time, so I'm going to leave it in the lean Biden column. On the flip side, I think Donald Trump is the favorite to win Maine's 2nd congressional district. It's the more rural of Maine's congressional districts, and its demographics favor Trump. Trump won this district by 10 in 2016 and 7 in 2020. In the absence of polling, I'm putting it in the lean Trump category, though I wouldn't blame anyone for saying it's likely Trump. And now we're down to the 7 states that will really decide this election. We'll start in Georgia, where recent polling is very bad for Joe Biden, even though it's a state he won in 2020. Here are some recent polling results in head-to-head matchups. Morning Consult has Trump +7, Emerson has Trump +8 among likely voters, and Trump +7 among registered voters. University of Georgia has Trump +2, and New York Times Siena has Trump +5 among likely voters and Trump +6 among registered voters. All of these polls have been published this month. So why is Trump polling so well in Georgia right now? We can only speculate, but we do know that Brian Kemp, the state's governor, is very popular. Joe Biden's approval rating is falling, and Georgia is a historically conservative state. Making matters worse for the Democratic Party is a new voting law that may make it more difficult for people to vote absentee. Even if we didn't have these polls, I'd put Georgia in at least the tilt Trump column, but if we average recent polling, we get a Trump lead of slightly more than 5%, which actually puts this in the likely Trump column. In North Carolina, we have 2 polls conducted this month. Morning Consult showed Trump leading by 9 head-to-head, and in a 4-way race that included RFK Jr. and Cornel West. We also have a Meredith College poll showing Biden leading Trump by 1%. If we average them out, we get a lead of Trump plus 4, making it a lean Trump state. It's a state he won in 2016 and 2020, but the Biden campaign is actively trying to flip it in 2024. Right now, it really seems like Joe Biden would be better off playing defense in the states that he won in 2020. States like Nevada, where recent polling really does not look good for Joe Biden. In head-to-head matchups, Morning Consult shows Trump ahead by 3, Emerson College shows Trump ahead by 3 among likely voters and by 7 among registered voters, and New York Times Siena shows Trump ahead by 11. Yikes. One bright spot for Joe Biden comes from a poll conducted by Terrence Group. They have a conservative bias, and this poll in particular was sponsored by the National Republican Senatorial Committee. It showed a tie. If we average these results, and I'll use likely voter polls since those have historically been more accurate, we get a lead of 4.25% for Donald Trump, landing Nevada in the lean Trump column. I think you're starting to see why Democratic organizers are beginning to panic about Biden's prospects in 2024. At this point, Donald Trump just needs one of Michigan or Pennsylvania, or a combination of any 2 states left on the board, and based on current polls, it shows that Donald Trump would win Arizona as well. Morning Consult has Trump plus 4. Emerson has Trump plus 2, New York Times Siena has Trump plus 5, and Noble Predictive Insights has Trump plus 8. Average those out, we get a Trump lead of 4.75%, again putting it in the lean column for Donald Trump. If we weren't just basing this map on the polls, here's where I'd say there are several factors that work in Biden's favor, including the state's shifting demographics and the potential for an abortion rights proposal to be on the ballot. Activists have been working on that proposal for a while now, and I think it's much more likely to happen in Arizona than it is in Florida. If an abortion rights vote is on the ballot in 2024, Biden's chances of holding on to Arizona, a state he won by just 0.3% in 2020, go way up. But based on current polls, Trump is clearly the favorite right now. Arizona brings Trump to 268 electoral votes. Biden needs to win all 3 remaining states just to hit 270, which is the minimum required to win. Of the 3 remaining Rust Belt states, Joe Biden actually looks strongest in Wisconsin. It's a state he won by less than 1% in 2020, so he can't afford to lose too much ground. Here are the head-to-head polling results from the past month. Morning Consult shows Trump up by 1. Emerson shows Trump and Biden tied among likely voters, but with a Trump 1-point lead among registered voters. New York Times Siena has Biden up by 2, and Marquette has Biden up by 2. For those that don't know, Marquette is really the gold standard of Wisconsin polling, but all 3 pollsters are highly rated and well respected. If we average these results, we get a Biden lead of less than 1%, just like 2020. That makes Wisconsin a tilt Biden state. Michigan polling is also razor thin. Biden won Michigan by less than 3% in 2020, and it's shaping up to be a very close race once again. Here are the head-to-head polling results from the past month. Morning Consult shows a tie. Emerson shows Biden ahead by 1 among likely voters and ahead by 2 among registered voters. But the New York Times Siena poll shows a tie among likely voters and Trump leading by 5 among registered voters. I have been favoring the likely voter polls in this video, and when we average those out, Biden's lead is less than 1%, making it another tilt state for him. If you use the polls of registered voters or just average all 5 results, it's a tilt Trump state. You'll see that's not going to matter in just a second, but I want to talk briefly about 2 major warning signs for Biden in Michigan. First, his approval rating among Michigan independents is really, really bad. Second, and at the risk of this video being demonetized, the Biden administration's handling of the conflict in Gaza is losing him support among Michigan Muslims. Michigan has a very large Muslim population, and these are votes Joe Biden cannot afford to lose. A Biden win in Michigan puts all eyes on Pennsylvania, and Biden's recent polling numbers really just aren't that great. Morning Consult shows Trump ahead by 3. Emerson shows Trump ahead by 4 among likely voters and by 3 among registered voters. New York Times Siena shows Trump up by 5 among likely voters and ahead by 4 among registered voters. The lone bright spot for Joe Biden is a Franklin and Marshall poll showing him ahead by 2%. If you average out these results, you get a Trump lead of 2.5%, putting it in the lean column and delivering a victory for Donald Trump in 2024. This is quite a big shift from my last video, which I published a couple months ago. I had Biden at 270 electoral votes, with Georgia and Nevada as true toss-ups. Just 2 months ago, polls showed Biden with a ceiling of 292 electoral votes. Now, the polls show Trump as the clear favorite, with the possibility of a landslide if he manages to flip the tilt states of Michigan and Wisconsin. Who do you think will win in 2024? Let me know in the comments section down below, then check out my next video to see what the polls currently say about the 2024 Senate elections. Thanks for watching.